Hello. So in my lesson, I chose to do the book Hidden Figures, the Young Readers Edition by Margot Lee Shetterly. And this book is truly a nonfiction and not a narrative nonfiction like the movie is. So I would kind of start off my book study, if you will. That's kind of what my lesson plan idea was to do a book study. So at the beginning of it, I would use kind of like a big inquiry question, just kind of a big idea question to get those kids thinking, and we're going to use this throughout the whole unit. So we're going to keep coming back to this question, and just help give it a little more meaning. So this would be a scaffolded lesson. So where students will be able to start reading with the teacher. They're going to move on to a little bit of group reading, and then they're going to be gradually released to start reading and taking notes on their own. So again, differentiation will be built into the lesson by allowing the class as a whole to start off reading as a large group for the first quarter of the book. The second quarter of the book, they're going to be in partners and in pairs. So usually I was thinking maybe pairs of four students in a group. Those kids are going to read, take notes, etc. And we'll kind of get into this in just a minute of the more specifics. In the last quarter of the book, they're released to read, they are released to read on their own. So this gives them, it's scaffolded, so it gives them purpose. It shows them what we're going to do, what I expect of them, and it allows those students who have a harder time reading to kind of read along with the class at first and understand the first part of the book before we start. It allows, for the second quarter, the partners working together, collaboration with the students, being able to discuss topics with the other students. So I thought that was a pretty interesting teaching strategy. And then we'll discuss, after each chapter, we'll kind of go through and look at our overall question. Now, our overall question for my unit is, who are these women, and why are their accomplishments so remarkable? And students will get to think about this throughout the whole lesson because of the racism that was going on during that time period. The amount of inequality, racial inequality, women's inequality, it just goes through those big topics that will help students relate to it a little more. So I just kind of broke this up into weeks, and you can do it however you want, but for my week 1, and my classes are kind of around 45 minutes apiece, so you can give or take whatever you need. So to start with, I would take about 15 minutes of my class period to introduce the whole unit. I will let them know that they'll be reading through a nonfiction book. Students should know what nonfiction book is, but if not, we need to explain it for those who do not. So you would explain that it's a true story. It actually happened in real life. Explain that the book we'll be reading through is called Hidden Figures, Young Readers Edition. And throughout the book, we're going to be listening to an audio version of the book before we actually read. So students will have their ears on, their ears listening, their eyes on, nothing in hand. They're just going to be listening to the story. And that just kind of gives them an overview of what the story is about before they dive into reading. And again, that's another teaching strategy just to kind of help the students along. So as a whole group, I would start out asking my students 2 guiding questions. My first question would be, what would you do if you were treated unfairly in a job that you really wanted, and how would you overcome that? Now this gets students talking, collaborating with the class, and it lets them kind of get out those feelings and get out how they feel about that, how they felt if they had a job, and it just kind of opens up this world that Hidden Figures is about. So then after that, I would ask, have you ever seen the book? Have you ever seen the movie? Have you read the book? Etc. If they have, I'll have them share out, what you know about it. Then I will pose the big idea question, the inquiry question that we're going to come back to throughout the whole unit. I would post it on either my whiteboard or a piece of chart paper. Now, if I do it on my piece of chart paper, it's going to be up there and it's going to be permanent and nobody's going to be able to erase it. So if I had to choose one, that's what I would do. I would just do the chart paper so it's easier. I would write the inquiry question on there, which is what makes the accomplishments of each hidden figure remarkable. And then I would, again, let students know that we're going to listen to an audio version of the first 2 chapters. And we're going to kind of scaffold those chapters so that the first quarter of the book we're reading together, the second quarter of the book they're doing it in pairs, and the last quarter of the book they're doing it by themselves. So you can take the first week to go through the first few chapters. So the first day, I'm going to play my first 2 chapters on my audiobook. After we have listened to the audiobook, I'm going to just have the students share out what they think about it so far. Then I'm going to pass out a hidden figure book to each student, because we'll have copies of each for each student. And then I'm going to provide anchor charts for all of my students for each of the 3 women that are in the story and that the story's about. And during this time, we're going to, after I pass out my anchor charts, we're going to read through the book together. I will read, I can have some of my higher readers read, or I will read to my students the first 2 chapters. And we'll stop periodically throughout the book. We're going to take notes on our anchor charts so that students know what to expect for the remainder of the chapters. And we'll do this a few times. Excuse me. Okay, so after we're done reading, we're done taking notes, etc., we're going to move on to a sticky note activity. I'm going to have the students, we're going to pass out the sticky notes, and I'm going to have the students write down one thing they learned about why the accomplishments of these women were exceptional or remarkable. And they're going to walk up and stick it on the chart paper. And these are all going to remain there until the very end of our unit. So then day 2, maybe day 3, might take a couple days to read through the first couple chapters. We're going to have students think about the first 2 chapters of the book. We're going to have students pair up of groups of 4, and we're going to discuss 2 questions. The 2 questions are, what do you think made these 4 women remarkable? And what do you think will happen later in the book? And then after that, we're going to go back to our seats. We're going to open our books to chapter 3. Actually, we're not going to open our books just yet. I don't have the books yet. We're going to listen to the audio version of chapter 3 and 4. We're just going to, like I said, we're just going to listen. Then I'm going to pass out the books, pass out the anchor charts that we've already done a little bit of information on, but I want these students to have this throughout the whole unit. So I will start out reading these first 2 chapters. We're gonna stop periodically to take notes together, so students again know what to expect. And then we're gonna complete the sticky note activity again after we're done. And again, those will be up for everyone to see throughout the remainder. Day 3, we're gonna do our day 3 or 5, whichever one, however long you want to take to do it is fine. This might be day 4, day 5 of my unit. I'm going to have the students think about the first 4 chapters of the book, and they're going to answer in a group, what do they think happened in the first 4 chapters, and what stood out to them the most? And it's going to get them talking and thinking about like what's happening in the book so far, what makes these women so remarkable, and what else can we do to think deeper into this and see what's going on actually. So then we're going to listen to the audio version of chapter 4 and 5. We're going to then get out our books. We're going to get out our anchor charts. We're going to do the same thing we've done for the past few days. And we're going to do it all together. And then we're going to do the sticky note activity again. So then the next week, chapters 5 through 12. 5 through 12 are going to be, I'm going to break students up into groups of 4 by homogeneous groupings, so that there's all different levels of readers in those groups. And then I'm going to instruct students that during this time, they'll be reading these chapters with their group members and taking those instructional notes. And I would give students around 30 minutes to complete the readings for the day. And if it takes longer, then we'll move it into the next day, so it's not a huge deal. We'll play the audio version just like we have for the first few chapters. So we'll play the audio version for the chapters, and then we'll ask any compelling questions that we may have, like what did you think about the other chapters so far? What can we do to dig deeper into this, etc. Just some things to get the students thinking and get conversation flowing in the classroom. And then we're going to allow students time to read the chapters, take notes in their group. They're going to take notes. They're going to take notes as a group this time, though, and not with me. So they should have a general idea of how to take those important notes. Now, and we'll come back and do our sticky note activity just like we did, of what makes the accomplishments of each hidden figure exceptional, and we'll post that on our chart paper. Now, chapters 13 through 23. This may be the 3rd to 4th week, depending on how long you take to do this unit. I have already instructed students the week before that our final chapters of the book we're going to be doing and completing on our own, independently. So again, we're going to all together, we're going to listen to the audio version, and then the students are going to complete the reading on their own in class. And if they don't complete it in class, they can do it at home, that's fine, just so long as they have those last few chapters and the notes they need taken before the end of the unit. And then we're going to complete the sticky note activities accordingly. Obviously, if the students aren't done reading it, not everyone can participate, but we want to encourage the students to read as much as they can. And then we're going to come back together when we're done. We're going to ask those questions like, what did we think about this book? How did we like it? If we read this again, what kind of mindset would we go in it with? Like, any type of those questions to get those students thinking. Now, after the students have finished the book, they will complete a culminating activity. This culminating activity is a presentation of some sort. And this will just be like a wrap-up of the unit and a summative assessment over what they have learned about these women. So they will get assigned, or they get to choose one woman to do a presentation over. They'll be able to pick a platform of their choice, PowerPoint, Prezi, it can even be a poster board, just as long as they have the information on there that they need. And their presentation will answer our overall compelling question of what makes the accomplishments of each hidden figure exceptional and remarkable. Now, students must include information they learned from the book and any other research that they have found on their own. And this will just, like I said, kind of wrap up our unit, and that's our summative assessment. Now, when students have presented their culminating activity, we are going to do a little something fun. We are going to actually have a movie day, and we are going to watch the Hidden Figures movie, just so students can take in all, that they've read. And for those students that don't, they get more out of videos versus just reading on their own or audio. It's going to just kind of bring this all together to show like how harsh they were treated and what they went through to be just amazing people that they were for NASA. So yeah, that's going to be my unit. So thank you so much for listening.